So recently, I almost bought the VST Bundle Complete 15. Now, I already own Complete 12, which has about 80% of the same sounds, and I found that I was already overwhelmed by the sheer number of options it offers. So why was I about to drop money on a set of VSTs that I didn't actually need? I think it's easy to think that the key to unlocking our greatest song is the next piece of gear or plugin. We convince ourselves that we're missing something, some new tool that will help us write that perfect track. But here's the truth. It is a trap, and this phenomenon has a name, Gear Acquisition Syndrome, or GAS. And in this video, I'm going to explore why GAS can actually hinder your creativity and how focusing on the gear you already have can unlock your full potential. So let's start with a kicker. Even if we buy that new piece of gear, it doesn't bring us any closer to writing that next big song. In fact, it often makes it harder. So recently I bought a few plugins during a Black Friday sale. I got Baby Audio Transit 2, Humanoid, Scalar 2, and a handful of UAD mixing plugins. Did they help me write my next song? Well, yeah, but it didn't make it easier. In fact, it made it harder because now I had more options, which led me to analysis paralysis. So analysis paralysis, otherwise known as paradox of choice, is when the number of options overwhelms us, making it more difficult to make decisions or take action. And this is exactly what happens when we keep acquiring new gear and plugins. Every new purchase adds more choices to our already crowded toolbox, making it harder to create music. A great example of this is cited by Barry Schwartz, an American psychologist and author of The Paradox of Choice. In the study, researchers set up 2 jam displays in a gourmet grocery store. So one display had just 6 jams, while the other had 24. And they gave customers a coupon for $1 off a purchase. So what was the result? Well, 30% of the people who saw the smaller display bought jam, while only 3% of those who saw the larger display did. So Schwartz argues that not only are we less likely to make a choice with more options, but we're also less satisfied with the decision that we do make. So when it comes to music, the more options that we have, the less action that we take. And even if we do take action, we often end up dissatisfied with the result. So why do we continue to feel the urge to buy more gear? A big part of this is something called hedonic adaptation. And so this is the tendency of humans to return to a baseline level of happiness after experiencing a significant positive or negative event. So when we buy a new piece of gear, we feel excited, we feel inspired, but over time, that feeling fades, and we're back to seeking out the next dopamine hit, whether that's the newest plugin or the latest synth. So when I first got Complete 12, I was stoked. I imagined all the insane tracks that I could make with the vast array of sounds, but after a couple of months, that excitement wore off, and I found myself looking for the next plugin to buy, thinking that it would bring back that initial spark. And of course, product marketers know exactly how to play into this. They release new versions of music production software every year, adding a handful of new features that they claim will take your music to the next level. And because we're chasing that fleeting dopamine hit, we end up buying it. But here's the truth. Those new features, they rarely make a significant difference in our music. What they do is perpetuate the cycle of gear acquisition syndrome. So, if GAS is such a pervasive problem, what's the solution to this? Well, it's actually simpler than you think. It all comes down to less is more. As we saw in the JAM study, the fewer options we have, the more likely we are to take action and be satisfied with our choice. In fact, there's this concept called constraint-based creativity that suggests that limitations, whether it's limited gear, a specific set of tools, or a set of self-imposed rules, can actually spark more creativity. So this idea dates back to the 18th century, where composers like Mozart would use dice to determine certain musical elements. And so those constraints force them to think more creatively. Now, I've tried this myself, not rolling dice, something a little different. So a while back, I set a challenge for myself to write a song using only one synth VST. And so having fewer options helped me to focus, and I made progress faster than when I had my entire arsenal of synths at my disposal. So how do we break the GAS cycle and how do we take action on this? I think it can be boiled down to pretty much 3 simple steps. The first is acknowledging that gear acquisition syndrome exists. Just recognize that GAS is a regular phenomenon that we'll all face, because the more aware we are of it, the less likely we are to fall into its trap. The second is ask yourself just one question before buying anything. Can I accomplish this task, no matter how difficult, using what I already have? For example, yeah, I would love to have a warm audio hardware compressor, but can I accomplish compression with the plugins that I already own? Yeah, I can. It's just not as shiny. Number 3, give yourself a constraint challenge. So write a song using just one VST, or use only one chord. Maybe it's just 3 notes, or maybe try to keep it under 10 tracks. Limit your options and see how much creativity flows when you're not overwhelmed with choice. By adopting a minimalist mindset, we can simplify our creative process and increase our output. And after all, the goal is to make music, not accumulate gear. You have enough gear to write that next track. So now it's time to stop collecting and start creating. If you enjoyed this video, definitely hit the subscribe button. And until next time, I will see you in the next video. Take care.